Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. We're live from our studios here at Adisawe Kanda, Accra. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Coming up in the bulletin, Minority Caucus in Parliament describes 20-year prison sentence handed to NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, as a miscarriage of justice. Later in the bulletin, efforts to extradite former Finance Minister Kenneth Ofori-Atta to Ghana suffer yet another setback after a U.S. immigration judge ruled that the Office of the Special Prosecutor failed to present persuasive evidence against him. We'll also take you to the Ashanti region, where illegal miners are still operating close to the abandoned Agenda 111 hospital project site at Adansi Asokwa, despite government efforts to reclaim the already degraded land. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, we're live on our various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, at 3FM 927. Let's get into the details now. A U.S. immigration judge has questioned the strength of the corruption case against former Finance Minister Kenneth Ofori-Atta, saying the Office of the Special Prosecutor failed to present credible evidence of criminal wrongdoing. In a June 15 ruling granting Ofori-Atta's application for permanent residency, Judge David Garde said the OSP's affidavit contained conclusory allegations without credible or reliable facts linking the former minister to any crime or personal gain. The judge said he had reviewed the OSP's case, including more than 70 criminal charges, but found the evidence unpersuasive. He also cited Ofori-Atta's testimony, the removal of an Interpol red notice, a KPMG review that found no criminal wrongdoing, and the absence of any U.S. extradition proceedings in reaching his decision. Ghana is seeking the extradition of the former finance minister in connection with the controversial Strategic Mobilization Limited SML contract. Let's bring in private legal practitioner and former MP for Tamale Central, Alhaji Inusa Fuseni. Alhaji, thank you for your time this afternoon. The U.S. immigration judge concludes that the OSP failed to provide persuasive evidence of criminal wrongdoing by Kenneth Ofori-Atta. What exactly does this really mean?
Thank you for having me. It simply means that they've granted a change of the status. He's no longer an illegal immigrant in the United States of America, and then he can continue to stay there until such a time that he wants to live by himself. So he will not be removed from the United States as an illegal immigrant.
And Honorable, given that this was an immigration proceeding and not a criminal trial, how much legal weight should Ghanaians attach to the judge's findings on the OSP's evidence?
Well, the American courts have no jurisdiction over criminal matters in this country. So the power of our courts to determine whether or not Kenneth Ofori-Atta is guilty of an offense still subsists. And no amount of words from a U.S. immigration judge can, if you want, dispel that judge, that right, or topple that right. So the right of Ghanaian courts to listen to the prosecution and the defense in this case, which has been filed before the court, still subsists. And the pronouncement of the U.S. judge does not in any way limit their ability to prosecute the matter.
And is this what we describe as the judicial overreach, seeing as Ghana is a sovereign state with our own criminal justice system, and these pronouncements are also coming from the U.S.? What does it say about credibility of the evidence gathered by the Ghanaian investigative agency? Hello?
The judge read the affidavit evidence of the OSP and made conclusive remarks. Okay?
Honorable, we're losing you. If you could position yourself a bit better for us, because we're struggling to hear you.
Me?
No, we cannot hear you. Your line keeps breaking.
Can you hear me?
All right, please, let's try again. It's better now. Well, I'm afraid we'll have to end the conversation with Honorable Inusa Fuseni because we're struggling to hear him. But he's been making a point about that pronouncement from the U.S. immigration judge about the credibility of evidence that was gathered by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, what this means to Ghana's efforts to get the former finance minister into the jurisdiction for the trial to begin. Now, here are excerpts of what the U.S. immigration judge has been saying, Judge David Garde, and he says the respondent, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, has not been credibly charged or credibly shown to have engaged in any wrongdoing in Ghana. And so the OSP affidavit is full of conclusory allegations without any description of credible or reliable facts that would indicate any form of criminal wrongdoing by the respondent. Judge David Garde says the lack of persuasive evidence indicating any form of criminal wrongdoing or criminal conspiracy involving the respondent in the OSP's affidavit is powerful evidence. We have Honorable Inusa Fuseni on the line. Honorable, you were making a case on what these pronouncements by the U.S. immigration judge means to the credibility of evidence.
So what I'm saying is that it appears from the ruling of the court that whereas the court relied on affidavit evidence from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the court heard Kenneth Ofori-Atta and counsel of Kenneth Ofori-Atta directly. And so probably was persuaded because Kenneth Ofori-Atta and his lawyers were in court pursuing an immigration matter. I can understand why he relied on affidavit evidence, because Ghana was not fighting the immigration matter. Ghana had requested the extradition of Kenneth Ofori-Atta, but the extradition document found its way into the immigration court. And I basically think that what the court did, what the judge did, was to say into a matter in which he has no jurisdiction at all, to determine that the case against Kenneth Ofori-Atta lacked persuasive evidence. Because the matter was not before the judge. What was before the judge was, a change of status on an immigration matter, not a criminal matter. Clearly, the judge, overreached his jurisdiction in this matter by making conclusive statements on the case.
Counsel, does this have any legal effect on the criminal proceedings in Ghana?
Absolutely not. Criminal jurisdiction is territorial. Even America has not signed to the International Criminal Court because America thinks and believes that criminal jurisdiction should be territorial.
Right.
So the offense committed by Kenneth Ofori-Atta is squarely within the jurisdiction of Ghana. And it is only the country, it is only Ghana that has the right to determine the guilt or otherwise of Kenneth Ofori-Atta, and not any judge sitting as an immigration court judge and pretending to be a criminal, a judge presiding over a criminal matter.
Right. Honorable, thank you for talking to us. We've been engaging Honorable Inusa Fuseni. He is a legal practitioner and former member for Parliament for Tamale Central, Haji Inusa Fuseni. Let's move on and do some other stories now. And the Minority Caucus in Parliament has criticized the 20-year prison sentence handed to the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, describing the conviction as a miscarriage of justice. Minority cites 4 defects in Wontumi's summary boy judgment, including denial of counsel, separate convictions of Wontumi and his company, selective justice, and refusal to refer serious constitutional questions to Supreme Court. In a statement, while affirming support for the fight against Galamsey, the group accused the trial process of being marred by procedural irregularities and selective prosecution. Meanwhile, the caucus's deputy leader, Patricia Appiah-Jay, has been providing further clarity on the minority statement on the imprisonment of Bernard Antwi-Boasiako. Let's listen to her.
The minority would do whatever is lawfully and properly within its power through Parliament and through public advocacy to see that justice is done and that the defects which have robbed the judgment of its legitimacy are corrected. 4 serious defects run through this case, and each deserves nation's full attention. First, the denial of a counsel of choice. We understand that judgment was delivered despite the absence of Chairman Wontumi's lead counsel, whose office had notified the court of a prior professional engagement abroad. Second, the refusal to refer serious constitutional questions to the Supreme Court. The trial judge decided for herself that Section 99 2B of the Minerals and Mining Act was, in her own words, clear and unambiguous. Third, and perhaps most vulnerable of all on the law, is how the court pierced Akunta Mining Limited's corporate veil to convict Chairman Wontumi personally. The judgment convicted Wontumi and the company separately on separate counts, using reasoning that treats them as one and the same. A court cannot dissolve a company to convict the man. Fourth, selective justice. In July of last year, the Attorney General directed an investigation into the NDC's own national organizer, Mr. Joseph Yami, and its vice chairman, Mr. Yakubu Abanga, over allegations of illegal mining. Months later, there is no comparable update on charges or trial dates. The government member of parliament has publicly acknowledged overseeing a mining site taken over from its lawful owners.
You've been hearing the Deputy Minority Leader Patricia Appiah-Jay in that press briefing. Let's connect with our colleague in Parliament, Christian Yale. Christian, talk to us about this presser by the minority. Are they making any demands yet?
Exactly, Grace. So they are making a couple of demands. The major demand here is that they are asking government to treat galamsey cases equally across the political divide. And what they want the Attorney General to do in this instance is to publish the state enforcement progress or status update concerning galamsey cases across the political parties. She just ended in the clip you played by indicating that there are some members of parliament that have been cited for activities. Abanga is mentioned. The NDC's organizer, Joseph Yamin, as well, is mentioned. That this fuel, the Attorney General has not provided any credible update concerning this. And so, Grace, they say that they are calling on the Attorney General to publish the state enforcement record on illegal mining across the political spectrum. And also they are calling on the Court of Appeal to scrutinize the denial of counts, the refusal to refer, and the veil piercing with equal and unflinching rigor. Now, they call on the judiciary as well to reaffirm the threshold for constitutional referral with express regard to the Supreme Court's own decision in the Zaneto case. And then, lastly, they are calling on all Ghanaians of every party to face that standard which plagued Mr. Chachuchi Carter's name in 2016 being funded with equal conviction today. So these are the express demands by the minority, who are saying that they are very clear that this is not an attack on the judiciary as an institution, but it is a call for consistency, for constitutional fidelity, and for a justice system that inspires confidence across the political divide. That is the mainstay of their argument, Grace.
Right, Christian, thank you for bringing us those updates. My colleague in Parliament, Christian Yale, updating us on that presser by the minority on the 20-year sentence handed over to the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman Wontumi. Still staying on issues of illegal mining, illegal miners are still operating close to the abandoned Agenda 111 hospital project site at Adansi Asokwa. despite government efforts to reclaim the already degraded land. One person was arrested when the Regional Security Council stormed the area on Tuesday. William Evans Inkum is joining us. William is with the team. Evans, what more do we know about this raid by the Regional Security Council?
Well, all we know is that Grace, on around the first week of July, we all heard a report about some massive encroachment by illegal miners on the Agenda 111 hospital project site. We already know that that project has been abandoned for some time now, but the fact that they were rapidly encroaching that particular facility became a major worry and, of course, dominated public discourse. So there were steps by the government to ensure that those people are dealt with, one, and then again, the land is reclaimed. This morning, the National or the Regional Security Council visited the project site. So the agenda was, or the rationale behind the visitation was to inspect how far reclamation has gone. To their, and of course, all of us, utmost dismay, some illegal miners are still working on the other side of the already degraded land. One person has been arrested. The Regional Security Council, led by the Deputy Security Liaison, Alaji, whom I asked a very simple question, whether they are treating these guys with kid gloves, because we also understand that some members of the ruling administration are deeply involved in this kind of but what I have been told by the Deputy Security Liaison is that they are going to be more tough on these guys and ensure that the right thing is done. So one person is in the hands of the regional security, and we are currently on the back to the RCC, and that the moment we get to RCC, the suspect will be handed over to the police.
Evans, what signal does this send to the fight against illegal mining, both from the aspect of the miners who are still at that site, knowing that it is a site... William, can you hear me?
Yes, can you...
Right. I was saying that what signal does this send to both from the side of the illegal miners as well as authorities in fighting this? For the illegal miners, knowing that this is a site that has been selected for Agenda 111, they are still there. And also for the authorities, what more are they likely to do to ensure these miners vacate the place?
Well, so they, according to them, even though it wasn't very clear, but what he said that they're going back to the RCC and then to figure out what is going to be done. But I get an indication that they're likely to tighten security around that particular area. Because one thing that we also observed is that although there has been some level of reclamation, but it is a substandard one. So an expert has been employed to ensure that the land is properly restored so it can be used for plantation again.
Evans, thank you for that report. William Evans Inkum, my colleague in the Ashanti region. This is the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Let's move away from illegal mining and talk about health. The Ministry of Health has dismissed a false report by South Africa's public broadcaster, SABC, claiming that Ghana has recorded thousands of Ebola cases and hundreds of deaths. According to the false Ebola report broadcasted by SABC, Ghana had recorded 2,300 Ebola cases and 930 deaths. The information was circulated during one of the broadcaster's news bulletins, suggested that Ebola infections in Ghana were rising. The misleading information, which appeared on the broadcaster's news ticker, caused concern before it was later removed. Health officials insist Ghana has not recorded any Ebola outbreak and are urging the public to disregard the report. The health minister, in a release, has debunked the claims, and we're joined on the phone by our reporter. Well, we're working the phone to speak to the public relations officer for the Ministry of Health, when we're able to connect with Tony Goodman. He will talk to us about what government intends to do and what next for this. But you're still on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Away from that, police have arrested 6 suspects following a targeted ambush between Porto and Kintampo on Sunday, July 19. Investigators say the suspect, including a driver who allegedly set up his own bus, robbed a victim of about 300,000 Ghana cedis before 4 of the armed men fled into a nearby bush. We're working also the phone to speak to Ibrahim Abubakar in the Ashanti region to bring us updates on what this means to fighting some of these issues in the Ashanti region. This is the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. We'll be back shortly after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Let's do some health stories this afternoon. And Health Minister Kwabena Minta Kando says Africa can no longer depend on external partners to fund its healthcare needs, stressing that sustainable domestic financing is key to achieving the continent's health goals. Speaking at the ongoing two-day extraordinary session of the African Union Assembly in Accra, he reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to playing its part in efforts to end AIDS by 2030, reduce preventable maternal death, combat communicable and non-communicable diseases, and build resilient health systems across Africa. My colleague Nura Mohammed is at the conference. She joins us on the phone. Nura, talk to us. What more do we know about what the health minister has been saying?
Hi, Grace. So at the moment, we're here at the Alisa Hotel, and the two-day summit kicked off earlier in the day. And, we have the closed section ongoing currently, where there will be several deliberations on the strategies that they'll be coming up with to end AIDS in Africa by 2030. Now, they spoke earlier during the open session. They made several speeches, including the health minister, and they spoke about HIV and AIDS, malaria, and some other diseases such as tuberculosis. And, it's interesting to note that they did mention that AIDS has been cut, the prevalence of AIDS is cut off by 41%. However, it still remains 4 times the world average, and that in Africa, we have about 63% of new infections, and this is most common among women and girls. And so there is that need and there's that urgency to help curb and end AIDS by 2030. They're still also talking about Ebola, the ongoing Ebola crisis, and they did mention that we need a lot of financing, especially with regards to vaccines and treatments. And they mentioned the funding gap of $1.4 billion needed for urgent Ebola response. And Dr. John Cassiel, who's the Director General of Africa CDC, even said that after the summit ends, the two-day summit ends tomorrow,
right,
very positive that the estimated number of people, total deaths, would be up to 1,000. So there's that urgent need to finance our health sector, as well as, they also mentioned maternal mortality and so many other health issues.
Right, now let's listen to what the health minister has been saying.
And even when healthcare is available, too many families still face impossible choices. They choose between buying medicines and paying school fees, between seeking treatment and feeding their children, between preserving life today and protecting their future tomorrow. When healthcare pushes families deeper into poverty, we cannot honestly claim we have achieved universal health coverage. We have simply shifted the burden from illness to death. This is precisely why the African Union Roadmap to 2030 and beyond is so important. And it is why this ministerial session cannot become another conversation that ends a declaration with no meaningful action. Our people deserve decisions. Allow me, therefore, to suggest 3 commitments that we can no longer postpone. First, we must finance our own health. The vision of the Abuja Declaration remains as relevant today as it was when it was first endorsed in 2001. Africa's health system must increasingly be financed by Africa's own resources, predictable, sustainable, and domestically generated.
Health Minister Dr. Kwabena Minta Akando. Earlier, you heard my colleague Nura Mohammed, who is sitting through that AU conference on Africa's financing, especially when it comes to healthcare and healthcare delivery. Before we take leave of you, the Traditional Medicine Practice Council is stepping up efforts against traditional and alternative medicine facilities operating without the requisite licenses and approvals. The exercise, which has been extended to the Ashanti region, according to the authorities, is aimed at protecting the public from unqualified practitioners and ensuring that traditional medicine services meet approved standards. That will be all for the midday news on 3FM 92.7. It came to you live from our studios here at Adansi Asokwa, Accra. You can also log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Thank you for your company in the last 30 minutes. Business Daily is up shortly. Don't go away.
On 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up, banking consultants calls growth for stronger regulation as Ghana's mobile money shifts from financial inclusion to systemic infrastructure. Also ahead, Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) warns public over rise in investment scams targeting returning market investors.
These schemes are not licensed, and they must verify the regulatory status of some of these investment schemes when they come across them.
Plus, Ghana urges Nigeria and Cameroon to join Cocoa Bloc to secure fairer global prices and boost local processing. We'll bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Ghana's mobile money revolution, long celebrated as a premier success story for financial inclusion, has reached a critical scale that tests the nation's financial stability framework. According to a new study by banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene, the ecosystem is no longer a peripheral convenience. This 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
Bank of Ghana data shows monthly transaction values reached a massive 493.20 billion Ghana cedis across nearly 1 billion transactions in April 2026 alone. However, Dr. Etuahene warns that light touch supervisory models designed for early innovation now create dangerous vulnerabilities. Mobile money operators currently face lighter prudential requirements than traditional banks despite holding massive customer floats. At the same time, Bank of Ghana reports reveal a 48% increase in fraud cases in 2025, largely driven by payment service providers and digital platforms. High market concentration also creates a too-big-to-fail dynamic where outages or cyber attacks on dominant networks could freeze national commerce. To safeguard the economy, Dr. Etuahene advocates for an activity-based regulatory framework that applies equal rules to equal financial services alongside risk-based oversight to protect consumers without crippling financial access.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on calls for stronger regulation as Ghana's mobile money shifts from financial inclusion to systemic infrastructure. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has warned the public to exercise caution over a growing number of fraudulent investment schemes targeting investors as confidence returns to Ghana's capital market following the country's recent economic recovery. Speaking on Business Focus, Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mensa Thompson, described the trend as disheartening, noting that it comes at a time when Ghana's capital market is beginning to recover from the effects of the domestic debt exchange program and broader economic shocks.
These schemes are not licensed, and they must verify the regulatory status of some of these investment schemes when they come across them before they put their money in it. We try to also educate them on some of the characteristics of these fraudulent schemes. 1, they are faceless people. 2, unauthorized platforms. 3, and promising exorbitant and unrealistic returns. But I think the fraudsters have found a way to go around this, and I think the new scheme that has come up is that they sign up one person, And they will tell you that before you can earn the interest that they've promised you, you need to refer another person or bring another person to sign up. And so now they trade on the integrity and credibility of people rather than themselves.
And that was Deputy Director General of SEC, Mensa Thompson, warning the public of a rise in investment scams targeting returning market investors. Now, the Ghana Cocoa Board has called on Nigeria and Cameroon to join the Côte d'Ivoire Ghana Cocoa Initiative, urging West and Central African producers to unite under a single regional alliance. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
Speaking at the Cocoa Value Addition Summit in Abuja, Cocoa Board Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ransford Abbey emphasized that a four-nation coalition would command roughly 3/4 of global cocoa bean outputs. Dr. Abbey pointed out that while Africa produces over 75% of the world's cocoa, the continent captures less than 10% of the wealth generated by the global chocolate industry. He described the imbalance as economically unstable, leaving smallholder farmers exposed to severe price volatility, climate risks, and international market manipulation. By expanding the alliance to include Nigeria and Cameroon, the proposed bloc aims to strengthen collective bargaining power, align farm gate pricing strategies, and present a unified front on international trade regulations. Beyond price negotiations, the move signals a major shift towards industrial policy, committing member nations to expand local processing, build regional supply chains, and ensure more value is retained right here on the African continent.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana urging Nigeria and Cameroon to join Cocoa Bloc to secure fairer global prices and boost local processing. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Before we go, Executive Secretary of Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, Duncan Amoah, says the country should reduce its dependence on imported refined petroleum products. He noted this can be done by expanding domestic refining capacity, warning that continued uncertainty in global oil markets could keep fuel prices volatile. Speaking on Business Focus, Duncan Amoah said the situation remained fluid, pointing to remarks by U.S. President Donald Trump that it could cost about $2 billion a day to keep the strategic waterway open for the movement of oil to markets in Asia, Europe, and elsewhere.
We happen to still have a fluid situation as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. The latest on it is that President Trump says it's going to cost about $2 billion USD each day to keep the straits opened for flow of oil across to the rest of the globe, Asia, and other parts of the world, Europe. So that conversation looks far from over. It doesn't look as though we are getting towards stability as far as prices on the international market is concerned. And so for most of us, watchers of industry here, we've advocated for what you would sometimes refer to as the Gulf Cooperation model, where they internalize or localize their advantages or benefits. You cannot be an oil-producing country that continues to export everything you produce by way of crude, and then you go back to refineries in foreign places to go and buy finished products to come and sell to your people.
And that was Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, Duncan Amoah. And that brings us to the end of Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company.